What happens when the nation's top law enforcement official sits in front of Congress and refuses to answer the simplest questions? Today, something rare happened in a Justice Department oversight hearing. Senators walked in expecting the usual rehearsed statements and polished explanations. Instead, they uncovered a pattern of avoided questions, shifting blame, personal attacks, and a level of defensiveness that raised more questions than it answered. And the moment Attorney General Pam Bondi snapped at a senator for asking about her former law firm's role, everything changed. Suddenly, the hearing wasn't about policy anymore.
Do not question my ability to be fair and impartial as Attorney General and anything with my former firm, Ballard Partners.
Thank you.
Was that true, what the White House press secretary said when she denied Homan took the money? Did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, as I stated earlier, I was not in office. I was not confirmed when that was handled.
So does that mean
Deputy Attorney General Blanche and Director Patel said that there was no evidence that Tom Homan committed a crime. Yet now you're putting his picture up to slander him.
No, I'm putting his picture up showing an interview he gave with, I think, Fox, in which he was asked explicitly about these allegations that he took a $50,000 bribe, and he refused to answer. He said he didn't answer the question whether he took the money, so I'm asking you the question. Did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, I answered that question multiple times. And frankly,
Well, I don't think, with respect, I don't think you did. But in case I just didn't hear you, what is the answer? Did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, that happened prior to my confirmation as Attorney General. I said that.
Do you know, sitting here, whether he took the money?
All I know is that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Patel said there was no case. And Caroline Leavitt is one of the most trustworthy human beings I know.
So
and,
was she?
Senator Schiff,
was she
if
right?
you worked for me, you would have been fired because you were censured by Congress for lying with your
We can stipulate to, you can stipulate to all your personal attacks on the Democratic members of the committee.
Personal attacks? You've been attacking my FBI director. You've been attacking my office. You've been attacking.
But what we're interested in,
borders are.
What we're interested in is the answer to these oversight questions.
You were
asked by my colleague. You were asked by my colleague.
Attacking good people.
Regular order, Madam Chair, so I can ask a question. You were asked by my colleague from Vermont whether you will support providing a video or audio tape, if it exists, of Mr. Homan taking $50,000 in bribe money from the FBI. Will you support a request by this committee to provide that tape or tapes to the committee? Yes or no?
Senator Schiff, you can talk to Director Patel about that.
Well, I'm talking to you about it. You're the Attorney General. This will be your decision. Will you support?
You don't have to tell me what is my decision and what is not my decision. I said you can talk to Director Patel.
You don't have to try to.
You think you've got a gotcha with Tom Homan, our borders are.
Excuse me.
Who's been out there fighting for our country since Donald Trump took office.
I'm trying to ask a question. Regular order, please.
Treasury compiles suspicious activity reports, referred to often as SARs, that DOJ receives automatically. Hundreds related to accounts of Jeffrey Epstein. How many of those Treasury SARs did you or Director Patel investigate?
Senator, I'm not sure if you're concerned because you took money, I believe, did you, from Reid Hoffman, one of Epstein's closest confidants, not only once but twice in 2018 and 2024, if that's correct. But, Senator, did you ask Merrick Garland any of this over the last 4 years when he sat before you? This investigation has been going on. This investigation was closed. Did you ask Alex Acosta that?
And Patel came to office, you said you would look into this. There were hundreds of suspicious activity reports. Some people would deduce from the fact that they are called suspicious activity reports that there might be suspicious activity. And yet you seem to have looked at 0 of those suspicious activity reports involving Jeffrey Epstein accounts. Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're grilling me on President Trump and some photograph with Epstein? Come on.
The question is, did the FBI find those photographs that have been discussed publicly by a witness who claimed Jeffrey Epstein showed them to him? You don't know anything about that. Okay.
You voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
I've been on this committee for more than 20 years. That's the kind of testimony you expect from this administration. A simple question as to whether or not they had a legal rationale for deploying National Guard troops becomes grounds for a personal attack. I think it's a legitimate question. It's my responsibility. She refuses to answer as to whether she had any conversation with the White House about deploying national troops to my state.
We should reform the grand jury process to ensure that the government is not abusing its power and authority, and it will require transparency and accountability reforms at DOJ so that you will and other attorneys general be held accountable for these kinds of decisions. Will you join me in supporting that kind of reform?
Senator Blumenthal, I find it so interesting that you didn't bring any of this up during President Biden's administration when he was doing everything to protect Hunter Biden, his son. And I think you just saw what Director Radcliffe just released.
You know, this is an effort to be positive.
If I can finish answering the question, I'm not going to yell over you. I'm not going to get in the gutter with you. But information that the Biden administration told them not to investigate Hunter Biden's involvement with Ukraine. I'm not going to be lectured to you about integrity by someone who lied about being in the military just to be elected a senator.
The merger between Hewlett-Packard Enterprises and Juniper Network was settled. You authorized the settlement. It was the subject of a lawsuit to block it. The settlement produced virtually no concessions from Hewlett-Packard. It was a settlement that prompted settlement yourself.
As I stated earlier, Gail Slater is doing an incredible job running the antitrust unit. And as I stated earlier, that is still a pending matter. As you should know with a law degree,
did you not,
that all mergers, if I can finish answering the question.
I'm going to,
if I could finish, no, I'm answering the question.
Because my time is limited.
No, well then don't ask me a question. So,
let me just ask you,
as I said, you have a law degree. You know that not only are mergers agreed upon, but they have to go to a court of law to be approved. It's a multi-step process. And as I said earlier, that is still pending. And I have full faith in Gail Slater.
And Ms. Slater reportedly objected to the settlement.
Reportedly.
And moreover, two of her top officials were fired.
It was about truth, accountability, and who was being shielded behind closed doors. Stay with me, because what unfolded next kept the entire room frozen. And you deserve to see every piece of IT. IT started with Senator Blumenthal asking a direct question about her former employer, Ballard Partners, and whether she had conversations with its founder, Brian Ballard, after reports suggested he lobbied the department to drop a lawsuit. Instead of answering, Bondi launched into a furious personal swipe about his military service controversy. The air in the room shifted instantly. Her tone wasn't controlled or measured, it was scorched earth. She accused him of lying, of being unfit to question her integrity, and insisted she was a career prosecutor who always followed ethics rules. But none of that answered the question, and senators noticed. Her reaction didn't calm the moment. It sparked suspicion. When someone leading the Justice Department meets a basic oversight request with anger instead of clarity, the question becomes simple. What's she trying to avoid? And as the exchange spiraled, it became clear this wasn't going to be a routine hearing. This was something else entirely. But that was only the beginning, because the tension broke wide open when Senator Schiff took the microphone. He focused on allegations that former official Tom Homan may have taken a $50,000 payment, a claim Homan himself refused to answer directly during a televised interview. Schiff didn't accuse. He simply asked whether the Justice Department investigated the allegation. Instead of responding, Bondi repeated the same line over and over, that the matter happened before her confirmation, and that she had nothing to do with it. But Schiff pressed again. If she didn't handle it, did she at least know whether Homan took the money? Did the department investigate? Did she review the case? And she still wouldn't answer. At one point, she insisted that if Schiff worked for her, she would have fired him. Again, another personal attack instead of clarity. That evasiveness sent a signal. If the allegation is baseless, a firm answer would clear everything up. But her refusal created a mystery she didn't intend. If she truly has no involvement, why work so hard to redirect blame and shut down the question? And when Schiff asked whether she would support releasing any video or audio evidence if it existed, she still refused to say yes or no. Instead, she told him to talk to the FBI director. But this wasn't the FBI director's decision. It was hers, and the room knew it. But the real shock came when the discussion turned to something much bigger, the Epstein files. The phrase alone electrified the hearing. For years, rumors suggest these files might contain information about powerful figures, hidden dealings, and names the public has never seen. Bondi herself once told the public that the client list was sitting on her desk. But when senators pressed her on how many suspicious activity reports she reviewed, she admitted she hadn't looked at any. Not one. Hundreds of reports flagged unusual financial activity linked to Epstein-associated accounts. Reports claimed these SARs were automatically sent to Justice Department leadership, and yet she couldn't name a single one she reviewed or investigated. Senator Whitehouse asked whether the FBI uncovered photographs reportedly shown by Epstein to others, images said to feature high-profile men with younger women. Bondi didn't say yes, didn't say no. She didn't even say she would check. She attacked the senator personally instead, accusing him of taking donations from someone she linked to Epstein. But attacking the questioner didn't erase the question. If the files were sitting on her desk, and if the public has been told the department wanted transparency, then why wasn't any of this reviewed? Why were suspicious activity reports ignored? Why are senators learning this only now? The lack of answers made the silence louder than any explanation could. But the hearing was far from finished. Because the next flashpoint came when senators turned to the firing of two respected officials inside the Justice Department's Antitrust unit, Roger Alfred and Bill Scher. According to reports, they objected to a high-stakes merger between massive tech companies. Their objections were serious enough to spark internal conflict. Yet shortly after raising concerns, both were fired. Bondi was asked directly whether she authorized these firings. She refused to answer. She was asked whether she pressured the antitrust chief, Gail Slater, to accept a settlement she reportedly disagreed with. She refused to answer that too, and she leaned on a familiar strategy, saying it was pending litigation, and therefore she couldn't discuss it. But senators weren't asking about the details of the lawsuit. They were asking why career officials lost their jobs after raising objections. They were asking if this was political influence creeping into the enforcement of antitrust law. Bondi's refusal to even acknowledge the question only strengthened the suspicion. And the fact that she defended Slater as doing an incredible job while avoiding the topic of fired subordinates sent another message. If justice is supposed to be nonpartisan, why do the people trying to enforce it keep getting removed? But the tension didn't stop there, because then came an exchange that revealed how deep the conflict had become. Senator Durbin challenged Bondi about conversations with the White House regarding the deployment of National Guard troops to his state. The question was simple. Did she speak with them about it? That's not classified, not restricted, not part of any ongoing investigation. It was a yes or no question about communication. But instead of answering, she launched into another attack, this time accusing him of shutting down the government and failing to protect law enforcement. She pivoted away from the topic entirely, refusing to confirm or deny any discussion about the National Guard. And that silence mattered, because the Justice Department is supposed to operate independently from political pressure. If there were conversations that affected federal troop deployment, the public has the right to know. If there weren't, a simple clarification would calm the concern. But leaving the question floating in the air created something else entirely: doubt. Doubt about independence. Doubt about influence. Doubt about who is actually making decisions inside the department. And when senators tried to return to the subject of suspicious activity reports, she took the conversation in the same direction: attacks, diversions, frustration, everything except transparency. Something was being held back. The question was why this point in the hearing, a pattern had formed. Senators would ask a direct question. Bondi would refuse to answer, redirect the topic, or insult the person speaking. And the more she did it, the clearer it became that these weren't isolated moments. These were defensive maneuvers, repeated, practiced, and deployed whenever scrutiny got too close to something sensitive. Whether it was the bribe allegation, the unreviewed Epstein reports, the fired prosecutors, the questionable merger settlement, the possible National Guard discussions, or the lobbying by former colleagues, each moment followed the same script: silence, deflection, and personal attacks. And rumors online have long suggested that powerful interests might be shielded by selective reviews and closed-door decisions. Nothing in this hearing proved that. But her refusal to even address the concerns didn't settle them either. When institutions stop answering, people stop trusting. And trust is the backbone of justice. Viewers watching this hearing weren't seeing legal arguments. They were seeing an institution under strain, strained by politics, strained by secrecy, and strained by the tension between public accountability and private influence. Justice doesn't work on autopilot. It requires openness, honesty, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. When the highest official in the department avoids basic oversight, the public begins to wonder who the system protects and who it leaves vulnerable. And the issues raised in this hearing weren't abstract. They were real. If suspicious activity reports connected to Epstein weren't reviewed, what else was overlooked? If allegations involving a former official weren't clearly investigated, who made that call? If career prosecutors were fired after objecting to a powerful corporation's merger, what message does that send to the next prosecutor who sees wrongdoing? If conversations about troop deployment happened without transparency, what prevents political interference tomorrow? These questions don't stay in Washington. They affect families, safety, fairness, and how justice is applied nationwide. Oversight hearings exist for a reason: to make sure no one, no matter how powerful, can operate without accountability. And accountability isn't personal. It's procedural. It's structural. It's necessary. But when every attempt at oversight is met with hostility instead of clarity, the process breaks down. And when the process breaks down, justice bends. And that's why what happened in this hearing matters. It's not about one official, one allegation, or one exchange. It's about the integrity of institutions that are supposed to operate independently of political pressure. It's about whether evidence is investigated without fear or favor. It's about whether powerful figures face the same scrutiny as everyone else. And it's about whether the public can trust the answers they're given, or whether those answers never come at all. The deeper you look at today's hearing, the more one truth emerges: power without transparency becomes something dangerous. When senators can't get answers about bribe allegations, or ignored financial reports, or fired prosecutors, or internal decisions that affect an entire country, something is fundamentally wrong. Justice doesn't hide behind personal attacks. It doesn't dodge questions. It doesn't pick and choose who gets investigated. It stands on accountability. And if that accountability fails, the entire system becomes vulnerable to manipulation. As this hearing ends, the takeaway is simple: pay attention. Ask questions. Demand answers. Because the truth doesn't disappear just because someone refuses to say it out loud. It waits. It lingers. And eventually, it reaches the surface. And if you want to keep following these moments, These rare times when the mask slips and the public sees what really happens inside the halls of power. Make sure you stay connected. Hit subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Your eyes on these hearings are the only thing that keeps the truth alive.